Hi guys, so I wanted to explain kind of what this jigsaw activity was. So what you're going to do is you're going to be using and working with your groups that you're sitting with, and you're going to go up to Mrs. Mobley or Mr. Goodnight, and you're going to get a piece of paper that's going to have a number on it. You're going to randomly select that, and that is what is going to be the category in this Google Doc that you're going to be researching. So the point of this is to spread out the information so not all of you are researching everything, so it kind of lightens the workload a little bit. So as you can see here, there are 6 different categories. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about what I think you should be looking for within each category. So we're going to be doing what we call focus time. So I want you to focus with the time given, which will be probably a period and just a little bit after you finish the DNA scavenger hunt today, and then you'll have one period tomorrow. And during that time, I want you to research as much information as you possibly can, get to a deeper understanding of your topic. So if we look here for the first one, this is history of outbreaks, outbreak preparedness, summaries, and lessons learned. So what this means is look at other massive outbreaks of maybe Ebola or Marburg or smallpox or other epidemics throughout history, and what kind of things did they learn from that experience that could make people better prepared if there was an outbreak in Huntington. So this is to prepare you to kind of start thinking about working on your emergency plan, which remember is your final product for this project. The second one, signs, symptoms, transmission, and risk of exposure. So this is all related to Ebola. So what's the signs and symptoms? How is it transmitted? What's your risk of exposure? And I want more than just like the basic level. I want you to be looking at specifics of all of those things. Third, prevention, diagnosis, treatment, current research. So what are best practices to make sure people don't transmit it to one another? How is it diagnosed specifically? Current treatment and current research development. So anything that they may be doing to try to research within this area. 4, this one's a big one, quarantine protocols, disposal of remains, and laboratory testing requirements. So quarantine, how are you going to separate individuals at different levels of sickness? How are you going to get rid of remains if they do die from that, because you can still get the virus from the corpse? And what kind of things do we need to have in place for the labs? Do we need different biosafety levels? Which biosafety level would be testing the Ebola? Do we need, how are you going to organize laboratory testing? We kind of talked about that in the entry of it. So how would you organize all of that? Communication with the public, best practices during the epidemic, non-pharmaceutical interventions, public safety, and public figures involved. So this is going to be very important because obviously you don't want a panic to ensue when something like this happens. So you need to figure out a plan of how you're going to communicate with the public, what kind of things you're going to do for food and housing and blankets and anything like that for those things that are not medically related. That's what non-pharmaceutical means, things that are not related to medicine necessarily, and maybe grief counseling, things like that. Public safety, so how are you going to make sure that the public stays safe and you don't have a riot like in the movie Contagion? And what kind of public figures are going to be the ones that are most involved in this process? And then the last one is preparing for Ebola. What kind of things could be done now to prepare if something like that were to happen? What kind of protective equipment do people need to be able to deal with those that are sick versus those that they're just going around in the community and helping? And how do we clean and disinfect to be able to make everything as safe as possible? So the instructions tell you that you need to create a Google Doc within your group that is separate from this, and then you're going to be copying and pasting your information back into the master Google Doc so everyone has access to that information. So you need to make sure that you share your Google Doc with me so that I can see that everyone was contributing, because you are going to get collaboration points for this. So if you don't contribute, you will get a 0. I just want you to know that. So I hope you guys have a great day, and please push through and have great focus time for this activity.